Satisfied, Piotrowski fell into his seat but did not relax after takeoff. As the aircraft started over the Black Sea, 1,000 miles from Pulkovo, the co-pilot emerged to use the bathroom. Pyotr knew that was coming. The man had used the lavatory when he boarded to put a full bottle of Putinka vodka in the trash. Many Russian pilots, also former military aviators, had a drinking problem. The agents who had taken this flight during the past fortnight reported where the co-pilot and first-class flight attendant kept the key to get back in. As soon as the cockpit door opened, Pyotr rose and removed his wallet. He grabbed a blanket from the overhead bin, slung it over his shoulder, and slipped the Nalchik Bank ATM card from its pocket. He walked forward nonchalantly, as if to be next in line for the lavatory. As he reached the aisle seat where the Russian security agent was sitting, Pyotr appeared to stumble. He leaned on the back of the agent's seat, extended his right arm, and sliced the sharpened edge of his credit card deep across the agent's neck, from ear to ear. His body shielded the view of the young woman across the aisle. The wound gurgled as the man drew breath, the air rushing into the wound, not his mouth. Pyotr dropped the credit card and gripped the MP443 Glock semi-automatic in the dying, gurgling man's holster. Pyotr quickly spread the blanket across the doomed operative who was busy drowning quietly in his own blood. He moved swiftly now toward the front of the plane. He held the agent's sidearm low and in front of his leg. It was not so unobtrusive that it couldn't be seen, but he passed smoothly, and a gun was the last thing anyone expected to see, especially since Pyotr's face displayed no sense of the power or arrogance that often comes with a gun. A male flight attendant finally took notice of Pyotr as he neared the cockpit door. The man seemed about to protest when the passenger failed to stop at the lavatory door. He never got the words out. Pyotr pressed the gun into his chest and pulled the trigger, angling down to keep the bullet inside the body. Decompression now would not be good for the mission. Pyotr took the key from a chain around the man's neck. The rest happened quickly. Though muffled, the noise alerted about a dozen people in the front of the plane, but it also froze them for the moment Pyotr needed. He unlocked the door, pushed into the cockpit, and locked the panel behind him. The pilot heard the commotion as the door opened, and he began to turn. Pyotr pushed him down, pressed the gun barrel into the crown of his skull, then pulled the trigger. The 9mm bullet went through the man's brain and most of his body before lodging in his coccyx. Not bothering to move the pilot, Pyotr slipped into the co-pilot's vacant seat, buckled up, turned off the transponder that broadcast the plane's identity and position, then shifted the course southeast. Someone, probably the co-pilot, shouted from behind the door, then began pounding. Pyotr ignored it. With the partition's reinforced bolts, no one would be getting in. Pyotr also ignored the radio, whose questions were becoming more strident. Instead, he appreciated how smoothly he transitioned from flight simulator lessons to airline control. In reality, once he'd reprogrammed the course, the autopilot did 90% of the work. The only tricky part would be to get down. He began his descent into the sunset. The pounding got louder, but Pyotr concentrated on the plane's descent. By then, the airport was starting to announce that if he didn't acknowledge at once, the Air Force would shoot the 737 down. The threat was certainly real, but Pyotr knew the nearest Russian command was more than 45 minutes away. Even if they had a plane in the air, they rarely did, his assignment would be completed before any could intercept him. Checking his position, he adjusted his course slightly so that he was over the center of the 143,000 square mile sea, far enough from the shore and the oil platforms to avoid being seen. Finally parallel to the Azerbaijan coastline, he steepened his descent by 2 degrees, lining precisely into the glide slope he had memorized during flight training. There was a loud crash at the cockpit.